Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Horrific Chats. In this segment, we talk to various independent creators of the horror genre and beyond. Tonight, we're joined by Brianna Malotke, a writer and fashion copywriter. We'll have to do a couple of rehearsals, like got that in my tiny brain, but there we go, we got there. Welcome, Brianna, to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. Great to have you. Obviously, you've been a contributor to our show in the past. One of
Yeah.
our more recent entrants that's discovered us, and as always, great to have independent writers and creators. As I always say, we need more voices out there, as many different flavors as possible, because
hmm
the corporate machine of blandness is just taking over everything, and God, it's just getting unreal. So it's always nice to have something new, refreshing, just different takes on things, because
yeah.
uh, everyone's experiences just lead to a different view or something maybe we haven't thought before. You're not traditionally from the horror genre, if I'm correct.
Correct. Yes.
Because it's quite funny. I'm checking out your webpage and your work, and it's all fluffy, and I can just picture pink cushions and unicorns and teddy bears.
yeah.
And then you have this other deep, dark
I
side,
don't
which
you can kind of see a little bit of my office behind me.
you should have
yeah.
got a few pink throws just to completely. But one of the things I want to talk about, people think horror fans just roll out of the mold, jidum, jidum, jidum.
yeah.
Everyone's the
I would
same,
say
thinks the same,
it
looks
was
the
a little
same.
daunting to join the community for sure.
Is that word community? Because it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? On one hand,
Yeah.
community just seems like welcoming and you're joining something. And then on the other hand, there's the sort of cultish conformist aspect of it. If you're not one of us, you'll be burnt at the stake.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Yeah.
do you want to talk about that actually? So what put you off, or what made you nervous about stepping into sort of the
I
world?
guess kind of initially, I was always just watching horror movies or maybe reading some here and there. Like I really like monster tales and like Dracula is my favorite book. And so I like reading different vampire stuff, all of that. But trying to be more involved in it, it was just kind of a little off-putting because my view of it for the longest time was that it was, a little more older adults, very much just gore and slasher. Like there wasn't all these different genres and little niches within. And so until I kind of discovered like, oh, like you can write poetry. Like there's horror poetry. That's a thing. And, it's not all gore and slasher flicks. There's a little more subtlety to it. There's a little more like ghost aspects you can play with. And I've really enjoyed doing body horror poetry. And so it was kind of until I figured out that it had all these little nooks and crannies that you could explore, it was a little daunting to kind of dive into the horror genre.
Yeah, that discussion still goes on today because um it's actually because the statics are the same with the fans, the sort of heavy metal crowd comes in, and it's, is this horror? Is this not horror? And
Yeah.
you got your 13-year-old, I want to be and
Yeah.
this genre's been around longer than most of us have been alive, and that's even including me. I know I'm getting a
Yeah.
bit beaten around the edges, but I mean, horror has been a staple since the 1800s, 19th, 19th
Mhm.
century.
Mhm.
So um, it's just hard to imagine that we're still having this conversation about, is it horror, is it not?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that.
Do you think maybe because you mentioned the slasher sort of flick,
Mhm.
that's kind of our popcorn flick in the horror
Yeah.
genre? You know what I mean? That's our switch your brain off, things get
Yeah.
chopped to pieces. That's
Yeah,
funny,
like, is there a plot? Who knows?
Why would you want one? That just gets in the way of the violence. Come on.
Yeah, so
But that is the popcorn. That's the equivalent of the action
mhm.
movie. You know what I mean? In
Yeah,
other
I get
genres, it's just a bit of dumb fun. but that's what the normies see. That's what the kind of, the outside world
Mhm.
project what horror is. And then obviously you see your social media posters and everyone's like the goth reject, your standardized, everything looks the same.
Yeah.
So it's easy to see why that sort of perceptions are. You probably get that with a lot of genres, to be honest.
Yeah, probably, it's just like any group, like, you know, if you're in the fitness world or something, there's the people that are hardcore, and unless you're doing it hardcore, then you can't be a part of it. So I do think it's not just horror, but
Yeah. There's a wee bit of that in the independent publishing world as well. There's always that one, you're not doing it right. I haven't given you permission to exist, sort of.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
to me, you got to look at those people and go, okay, what's your malfunction? What are you
Right.
afraid of?
Yeah.
Are you on that? Is your pedestal that shaky that that's all it's going to take to knock you off?
Yeah. Mm. Mhm.
And the reason for having these conversations and to bring people out is maybe like yourself, there are people out there who are nervous. What would you say to somebody who is thinking, "Oh, I actually kind of like horror. I wanted to explore it. I want to create something, but ooh, scary people or ooh, unwelcoming people." What advice would you give to somebody maybe coming into this genre for the first time?
Yeah, I would say just do it. Like, honestly, uh, once I decided, like, I wanna pursue publishing my stuff, like, I think that there are people out there that might find it interesting, and I wanna share it. I just submitted it of everywhere. Like, just dive right in, and I think that's the best way to do it, like, because you're not gonna know where you're a good fit until you get out there. So until you put yourself out there, just go for it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some like I said, this the whole point of this channel existing is to encourage people to give it a go
Mhm.
because you
Yeah,
just don't know. And do you know
yeah.
what? If you don't try, you can't fail for a start. So
Mhm.
you can't fail if
And
you don't try.
yeah.
And how are you ever going to know or test yourself?
Yeah, and, like,
If
getting rejections is a part of the publication process, and so you just have to kinda just get used to the no's rolling in because it's gonna make those yeses feel even better, and then, following up with that, I would just say, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, if you have a question, just ask it. Because, at least in my experience so far, like, the people that I have reached out to within horror have been super nice and very helpful. And, like, they're like, yeah, like, we're doing this thing. And, if you want to be a part of it, go for it. Like, so so far, it's been really nice and it was not what I expected.
it's always amazed me, even
So,
doing this,
yeah.
everyone's a sweetheart. Seriously.
Yeah.
And you just come along, it's like, okay. So there's got to be something to say to get that darkness out of you and express it in a way because it just you look at the nice genres and franchises
Mhm.
and they're all at each other's throats.
Yeah, you could yeah, that was one thing that kinda got me out of, like, the fashion world is, like, it would just and more into the writing aspect is,
Hmm.
because my background is in design, is, every time I had some fashion design related job, the people were just mean. It
Yeah.
was just, like, a harsh environment. Like, Devil Wears Prada is true. Like, that is the setting, the work atmosphere, and so, like, I kinda branched out, went more into writing, went more into costume design, and, you know, got into horror, and the people are so nice, and I'm just like, "I'm here to stay. This is what I'm gonna do from now on."
I'm gonna say because that is a complete it's complete anathema to sit, and I work in a sort of corporate world, so I kind of get it, the grey suit, the the blandness and the
Mhm.
fake smile,
Yeah.
which is just the person's hiding the knife behind their back. You know what I mean? It's always the joke is the pat in the back's the recce for the knife. Where
Oh,
they're going to stick it.
yeah.
Um, But yet, these people would be disgusted if you say you like horror movies or you like the horror
Yeah.
genre.
Yeah, you can't really, like
Have you had that sort of reaction?
I get a lot of weird, like, "Really? Like, that's what you do?" Like, I think people are more confused, and I think it kinda goes back into everyone has this idea of, if you're in horror, this is what you should look like. This is and I guess I don't fit
Terminations for
that
not being a
mold,
stereotype.
and yeah, so I'm like, "Yeah, but I do. That's what I really enjoy, and I personally think that I'm doing pretty well in it." Like, but yeah, I think I get a lot of weird, like, "Really? Okay."
And then they kind of sidle off, and then they plot your
Yeah.
downfall because they're the nice
Like,
people.
let's change topic. Like,
Hmm. It's so funny. Like I said, the people that preach so much about being nice are usually the nastiest in the world. And yet we talk about like bodies being eviscerated and flesh being torn from bones, and we'll all chuckle at
yeah.
it. And yet our interactions with each other, now there's always idiots everywhere. You'll always find the idiot, they just can't help
Mhm.
themselves. But they haven't really learned, how to socially interact. So they have that, "Meh." But you'll get that anywhere, but you just,
Right.
when
Yeah.
they're the exception and not the norm, I think you're only a good thing with the genre. That's why I'm very protective of the horror genre, because I don't want this nonsense that's trying to that's permeated in other sort of genres and franchises coming over,
Mhm.
because we're happy being weirdos but
Yeah.
getting along with it. We'll
Yeah.
have the discussion about a movie, but it's not the, if you don't like this movie, you're a terrible person. It's like, what?
Yeah. And I think, at least so far with everyone I've talked to, like, everyone has different backgrounds, and so
Hmm.
you're just getting all these different perspectives when you have conversations about books or movies and, stuff in the horror genre. Like, everyone's background is different, and so people point out different things, and it just kinda brings more to the table on these kinda discussions, so
Yeah, and
it's
that's the big
nice.
thing. Discussions. I always prefer discussion and discourse over debate.
Mm.
Debate implies there has to be a winner,
Right,
and about
yeah.
beating the other person, and you're in a team. Where discussions, discourse is about ideas and sharing ideas, and everyone coming out that
Mhm.
little bit better for it.
Yeah. Makes you
And
think,
yeah,
and that's what
sadly, a lot of people just stop thinking completely. It's quite sad to see.
hmm, yeah.
When did you first start? When did you first start with movies, or what was your first sort of introduction into horror?
When I got to watch the is it like 1992 Dracula film? I think that was probably my first
With Gary Oldman,
introduction.
with Bram Stoker's?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that
So
man
that
was a chameleon.
that movie, I was like, "What? This is crazy,"
Have you
and,
watched the original with Christopher Lee,
no,
Vincent
it's on my
Price?
list.
Right,
Yeah.
it's exactly the same movie. I mean, they don't. It's beat for beat the same
Yeah,
movie, just with a few more
yeah.
effects.
So
And
that movie got me into wanting to, like, design costumes and clothes and stuff, but also into horror, and so I was way too young, and my mom was just like, "Yeah, you can read Dracula. Yeah, you can read whatever you want. Like, this is great, you're reading." And so I just got so probably went more into reading some of the horror, but watching Scream and Chucky, and I was born in the
sorry,
'90s, and I
it's like
had like, my mom
we
was
have an argument in
young.
our own channel about the Scream franchise. One of my buddies, Adam, absolutely loves it. Wants us to do a deep dive,
Oh,
and Cameron and I are like, no, no,
yeah.
we're not doing it. He's like, come on, lads, look, and I pointed at a couple of people and point to you as well. Look, there's Brianna. She likes it. Talk to her. Leave us alone.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think it was just like, maybe I was around 10 and I was watching these horror movies, and it wasn't and at the same time, I was also watching the Disney scary movies like Hocus Pocus and Halloween Town, and I was just like, "There's such a variety." You have
Disney can't wrap its head around
little
horror.
little witches with, no one dies, and then you have people getting stabbed, and you don't know who the killer is. So, I would definitely say the movies is kinda what got me into being a little more exploratory in horror.
So, had you begun writing before horror? Was that like a later branch off?
Mhm.
So, tell us about your writing journey. When did you begin that? Was it always a thing, or a hobby,
Yeah,
or something you did?
it was always a hobby. I kinda used it just to, like, I have ADHD, and so I have a lot of thoughts all of the time, and so writing really helps me kind of calm down, kinda like, when people meditate. Mine is just, I gotta get those ideas out there, and so, in high school, I started writing poetry, and then in college, I kind of started, in addition to studying, I would get all these writing internships. So I started writing fashion, and I kind of lost that personal writing, and everything was research and writing and getting topics assigned. And it wasn't until a couple years ago that I really was like, I miss this. And I had been watching Hannibal, the TV show,
Oh yes,
and I was just so inspired, and
that first
I was just
episode
like,
with the mushrooms is just something else. That was
the
what do you call him?
imagery of that show.
Scar. I can't remember the actor's name. God, I'm terrible with names. He's brilliant.
Yeah, and so I was just so inspired by that TV show that my personal writing just came back, and I was like, "You can write, like, horror poetry, like, the format is the same, it's just a different topic." And so I went online and started to explore a little more with reading and horror literature and everything, and I was just like, "I love this
That's a deep rabbit
so
hole.
much." Yeah. So, I just started to write my own horror poetry. Um, a little more recently, uh, I've dived into short stories, one of which you guys read.
Oh yes. What was it? Dripping with what is it? Dripping with
Yeah,
honey. God,
Twisted Tales,
tails dripping in honey.
Dripping into
That was
Honey,
one.
yeah, and that was actually, like, a big goof because I the premise of the submission was, like, writing a paragraph, and so that's what I thought it was. Like, you submit your paragraph story, and that was it, and it wasn't. It was like, "No, now you're selected, and you have to write a story." It's like, I've never written a short story for, like, a publication before,
Mm-hmm.
but it turned out really well.
And
So
back to what you're saying. Do it.
mhm.
You'll if you don't do, you'll never know.
Exactly, yeah.
And time spent creating is not time wasted,
Mhm.
even if it doesn't directly equate to a monetary reward or
Yeah.
accolades. Time spent creating,
Yeah.
exercising your brain, or getting something out of your system. Should
Mhm.
it sit on a shelf or on a hard drive and go nowhere, doesn't mean you've wasted your time.
Yeah.
And I don't think
I
people get that
totally
concept.
agree. Yeah. And it might just be my creative background, but I'm always doing something. And it's just for fun, whether or not it, turns into a full story or, a sewing project or any of that. It's just kind of just for myself and I enjoy it. And then if later on I'm like, oh, this kind of fits with that, like, let me share it with people. So,
Mhm. Have you found that your horror creations have leached out into your other enterprises? Not maybe directly, as in creating everything horror themed, but have you found maybe some ideas and concepts unique to horror that you then been able to branch out into your other projects?
oh, definitely the other way, but um, yeah, I'm not sure yet. I'm sure it will definitely leak into other aspects um, of my life. But for now, I would say it's more, my costume designing background helps me build world, story worlds,
Mhm.
and helps with.
So, do you create costumes for people specifically for like cosplay or conventions or
So, plays.
plays? All right.
Hmm.
So, stage plays, theater.
Yeah, yeah. I was always waiting to get some kind of more horror-oriented show, but it never happened yet.
That's it's actually a tricky one. God,
Yeah,
there's one I
there's
meant to
not
go
a
see
lot.
was yeah, there's one I meant to go and see was Dracula versus the Addams Family, but we ended up doing something else that weekend. And
Mhm.
there's these guys in Salt Lake, the Shadow Theater Company. They do likes of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but they do Shadow
Okay.
Theater.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
plays, and then they do, I mean, they
and
come
then
up
the
with the
people are doing
costumes
it. Yeah,
and make it 3D.
yeah. I
But
would
that's
love to
really
do
it.
something like that, yeah. I mean, I do
Uh,
my own costumes, but it's not.
have you ever thought of going to the likes of fairs?
Mhm.
Set up, even if not to set up a stall, to go and make connections.
Yeah.
So rather
I
than you could go to set up a stall, directly sell, but sometimes those things, if you go with a portfolio, you never know who you're going to meet.
mm, mhm, mhm.
Haunted houses, they're a big
Yes.
thing over your side of the pond.
Yeah.
So
I tried, um, a couple years back, pre-COVID, when they had haunted houses. I reached out to a couple in the area like, "Hey, I'm completely free to help with costumes for your haunted house."
mhm.
But unfortunately, that group has, like, their people that they use, so I couldn't get in there, but I just recently moved, so I'm hoping that this Halloween, I can kinda help out with some more local
Yeah,
stuff.
not even Halloween. Like horror is
Yeah.
all year round. This I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. Another
Yeah.
association thing. They always associate horror with 1 month of the year, and it's
Yeah.
like, nah.
Yeah.
So that's just when things get ramped up a wee bit, and that's when other people come on board. But
I think that's when, like, the people that don't normally venture into horror are like, "Okay, I'll do it this month. I'll watch a scary movie this month."
yeah, it's all the tourists.
Yeah,
All the
that's
tourists come in. It's
that's a
like,
good way, yeah,
yeah, they've been
like
doing this all
tourists.
year.
Right.
But these things go on all year.
Mm.
I did warn you at the start, we'll go off on tangents.
Yeah.
But yeah, these sort of fairs, I've got a few creators that make what is it, like resin, figurines, and
Ooh,
some
yeah.
guys do like wood or stone carvings,
Gotcha.
plaster, what I mean, if people do all that
Yeah.
there, but you'd be surprised. Just check your local directory, check your local
Yeah,
events,
I'll have
and if you
to.
see like a horror fair, um just go and see. Good friends of mine used to do a thing Halloween in summer,
Oh, that would
and
be
that,
fun.
I mean,
Yeah.
every July they'll do, and it'll be everything will be Halloween themed, middle of summer. But then that's where you meet all these different people,
Mhm.
and sometimes not the direct approach, but just and this is generally for everybody,
Yeah.
don't just think you have to go straight line and it always must be an outcome. Just sometimes being personable, being in the right environment,
Mhm.
have an example, even if it's your phone and your Instagram, just flick, oh, here's some of the stuff I do.
Yeah.
You don't know the
Yeah.
connections you're going to make. I think maybe that's the thing about this kind of genre. People don't tend to like the hard sell. Very
Yeah,
resistant
I
to
get
it.
what you're saying, yeah, yeah. It yeah. It's a
So people
little.
tend to be like, "What? Oh, you're selling me something? No, no, go away."
Mhm.
Because especially October, just get bombarded. Everything's nonstop.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes just having a conversation on a different topic, um, doing like you're doing, I mean, you've been quite busy this month with podcasts, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've been doing quite a few. You're probably sick. Like, oh god, got to
I
talk to
like,
somebody else now.
"Oh, so much talking."
Trick of
But
that
they're
is you
completely
talk from
different.
here.
Yeah.
Imagine yourself when you're speaking, not from
Mhm.
here, but from here,
Okay.
and it actually doesn't give you as much
Mhm.
strain. And don't think you're having to speak to like an auditorium. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
some people make that mistake, and it's like, oh my god, I'm sore.
Uh,
How do you do this for hours? Like,
yeah,
how do you
yeah.
talk to your friends in the coffee shop for an hour?
Right. Just very, very low key.
Yep.
Yeah, but even that, everything's so different. It's great.
Have you been comfortable going on camera and talking to people? Because one of the things I try and convince people to do is, for example, this show has come on, and there's so many people. Oh, I couldn't possibly do that.
It's a little weird.
What was it like the first time? Because I remember when I first did my very first sort of recording
Mhm.
back in 2013. It was like, and you're using a quiet room, so you're
Yeah.
speaking out into the emptiness. And it's kind
Yeah.
of
It's just it was so scary to think, what if I make a mistake? What if I forget how to pronounce something? What if, it's just scary. But now I'm like, no, it's a conversation. Like mistakes happen. We're all human. Like
Do you think it's being brought up with those overproduced sort of TV shows and thinking everything has
Oh,
to be like that, um,
yeah. Yeah,
professional and
yeah.
clipped, and people don't want to watch that anymore? You know what I mean? They're
Yeah, I'm more likely to go on and, like, I watched a bunch of your guys' stuff before I submitted my short
well, there
story.
you go. There's
Like,
unprofessionalism at its core.
I was just like, do I even fit? Am I a good fit? Um, but yeah, like, there's a couple other podcasts and shows that are just people, and it's very nice. I think that kinda relaxed setting it
Mhm.
makes me a little more interested. I'm like, I'm more interested in what they have to talk about than these very clearly produced, edited, spliced together shows.
Oh, it's horrible. Everything's so generic and dull, and
Yeah. Like, I'm
you.
happy when people go on tangents. I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's a good point." Like, yeah, okay. I'm glad I watched this video.
But that's how
So,
people get to know you,
yeah.
and that's what audiences now are looking for. Like self promotion. Are you self published or through a publishing house?
Publishing house.
Right, but you
So
still have
far.
to do your own self promotion, yeah, because a lot of people
Yes.
think that's
Yep.
the end of the journey.
They're
Because I've
all
spoken to,
Oh my gosh, no. Yeah, it's all everything I've had published is with, like, a small, independent kinda publishing company.
mhm,
So they only have so much they can do. Like,
yeah,
they'll post your stuff, but it is all on you. So not only are you the writer, but you have to edit your stuff, you have to do your own social media, you have to market yourself. I actually, once I got a little more into horror, I was like, all right, I have to separate my writing now because maybe the people that want to read my horror stuff, they're not interested in my like frou frou romance stuff. So pull that out, you know? And now it's kind of double duty. I have like a romance account, I have a horror account, but it's a lot. Um
have you found that to be true? Have you still need to maintain that separation, or have you been able to blend? Okay, like I see on your website, you put your horror section, so you actually
yeah.
clearly define. Okay, if you want to check out my horror stuff, my romance, and you've even got a wee section for these are my odds and ends that don't really fit anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, which is
Yeah.
cool. Do people accept that?
So far, I feel like it's gone well. I think that I've gotten a little more, uh and I don't know if it's because I've been doing a little more public stuff like this in the other podcasts, um, and that's how I've been getting a little bit more interaction on the horror side of things, but I I personally think it's gone well splitting my 2 main genres,
Hmm.
um but, I'm sure depending on what people write, they might not care or it might work well for them to have everything together, but
Yep. But I mean, not the extent, like I said, you've had
oh,
separate profiles and that, but
mhm,
just by you've got your one your one sort of entity, and you
yeah,
just split up your works by okay,
yeah,
here's my horror stuff, go look at it,
mhm.
rather than just this long list of and people don't know
Oh,
what they're
yeah.
reading. What I'm saying is, Brianna, are you able to
Yeah,
just go use yourself and say, okay, I do a bit of this, or do you have
yeah,
to have like a completely different persona for the horror stuff
you know,
and for the romance stuff?
I've
Is that
just been
really that
myself.
necessary, or?
Yeah, I've been myself. I've not created like, okay, in horror, I'm not going to talk about any of this other stuff, or in romance, I'm not going to bring up that I write very disturbing graphic poetry about people killing each other. We're not going to talk about that. If it, I've been very open about everything that I do, and so far I think no one's been like, "Hey, don't talk about that.
No,
Don't bring that up.
do you think
Don't be
people aren't given
yourself."
enough credit? Do you think people aren't given enough credit for being able to determine for themselves? And this whole nature of everyone must now be put into a box. We spent decades
Yeah.
and got to the 90s of taking people out of boxes and just
Mhm.
human to human interaction. Now it's like everyone's trying to be put back into boxes. Okay,
Yeah, like
if
you're the
you're in
one
this,
thing.
you can only be the one thing, or if you're the
Mhm.
other thing, you can only be the other thing. And
Yeah.
it's like,
I'm
dude,
like,
we
"No."
spent years getting this all sorted and flipping morons or
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've just been 100% myself. Whatever gets brought up gets brought up. Like, I can't see myself, putting myself into boxes like you were saying and just staying there. I just I don't think it would work as a writer.
no, you limit yourself immediately.
Yeah.
The minute you put up barriers, and as a creator or as a
Mhm.
thinking human being, the minute you put up barriers to I'm not going to think about that or that's never going to touch
Yeah.
my thing,
I
then
think you have to be open.
yeah.
Yeah, just be open, and I think that's what's gonna make you ultimately better in whatever pursuit you have, is being open to these outside kind of opinions and everything. Like, you just have to be open to it.
Yeah, I'm sick of the attacks, I think. Okay, this is my gang, you're not in it. And that's it. You know what I mean? You're a
Yeah.
horrible person and must be wiped off the face of the earth. Well, it's like stop.
Yeah.
And like I said, some people try and do it in horror, like the whole is this horror, is it not? And it's like, stop it. But
Yeah,
generally
just let
they
people
kind of
enjoy it.
the people thrive in conflict. Do you think that's what it is?
Probably. Like, everyone's a little bit different, and there are just very confrontational people out there who think their opinions are the only opinions that everyone should have. And I think no matter what, you're going to run into people like that. But I'm always just like, okay, well, that's your
We get some
thought.
crackers come onto this page, it's brilliant.
I just like,
And
that's
I
fine. You
share
can
for the
have your
comedy
opinion.
value because it's just brilliant. It's like,
Yeah.
what is going on in your life, mate? Calm down.
Yeah. I'm like, you think about it. You only have X amount of time in life. Why, why be angry? Why be confrontational? Why ruin other people's days? Just,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a mindset. I've tried to study this because when you have to put yourself in someone else's position to understand
Yeah.
where they're coming from. I still can't do it. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Just like, why?
Why do you have to be like that? Like, don't get me wrong, somebody gets my back up, I'm coming at you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Like,
me, but I just
yeah.
don't get it. And thankfully, horror doesn't have it as much. It pops up now and again, but generally
Yeah.
just swells back down again and
Yeah.
disappears.
I think the whenever I've encountered kind of, situations like that, it's been where there have been these like anthologies and stuff that are like women in horror only. And then people are like, well, why is it just women? Why can't I be a part of this? And I was just like, just let them do the anthology. Just be happy for the X amount of people that got published.
I think I can
Like,
kind of see that side of things because, especially social media, it's this day, it's that day, it's this week, it's this month. There's always some new thing being invented. They're trying to make it the thing,
yeah.
and to me, it just seems so disingenuous because they're not actually doing it out of the heart. You know what I mean?
Mm, okay.
It's okay. We're trying to make a thing happen here
Yeah.
to be a trend, and we want to own the next
To
thing.
get noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's to me, it's just do your thing. You know what I mean? If that's what you want to be
Yeah.
it all the time. But and if you see that and you're not being included, well, fine, just ignore it. Go find somebody
Mhm.
that'll have you. But it just these months and days and years, and some of my friends take a mic. Oh, today it's apple pie, National Apple Pie Day. You know, just to
Yeah. I'm Like, okay, it's a Saturday.
All comes from your bloody side of the pond too.
Yeah,
Does everything have to be
it's
some sort
always
of?
something. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. My
It's,
what was it? Last Saturday, my gym or something, it was like, "Today's Rice Krispie treat day." I'm like, "How's that a thing? Who decided that? Who like who gets to decide today is Rice Krispie treat day? And why do we need that?"
I don't know. Did somebody have like 10 boxes in the back? Right, we need to shift these.
I was just like, "This makes no sense." Okay.
So you work in the marketing world.
Mhm.
Have you had the official brief on how to fan bait? Because that seems to be the latest thing lately. Fan
On how
baiting.
to
So basically,
fan
you
baiting.
take a franchise, you change something, you rile people up to get the controversy,
Oh.
and then
Oh.
they get surprised that nobody buys their stuff then because you just wind people up, and it's not done thing. Is that an actual? Is that the okay, guys? Here's the white paper on the latest marketing technique. This will get people through their doors. Have you ever had that brief, or is it just Hollywood?
So I've never had that, but, like, you can watch it in Hollywood and everything, but, yeah, I've never had that, been told to be like, "Okay, this is what we're
Antagonize
gonna
your
do because
customers.
this is gonna get us people." Like, "No. Nope, nope, nope." I think it helps. I've really only focused on, like, small businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a lot more about engaging with their target audience and having loyal customers. So they're not after numbers, they're not after followers, they're after people that are going to continue to come to them. So,
But has any business, or have you told any business, right? You only go to market to these people, and you don't let anybody else step through the door of your shop,
like who to connect with?
right? So today you're only allowed. No, I mean you're only going to market to this small group of people,
Oh,
and nobody else is allowed to come and buy from your business because that's how you're going to succeed.
no. Yeah, because
Because that
like,
seems to be that the way the flipping fast food machine
yeah,
now is like in Hollywood fast food franchises.
yeah,
You know, it's
I get
the
what you're
same burger and
saying.
fries and nonsense. But
Yeah.
on what planet do you tell someone, right? You are going to
Can't be here.
exclude a certain part of the customer bases because their
Yeah.
money's not good enough, and that money isn't going to be profitable. But this group's money is going to be profitable.
Yeah, no, I've never done that.
I don't know. Anytime I've dealt with business, like, right, have you got money? Do you want to give it to me? Yep, happy
Right,
days.
like, exactly. Yeah, don't just exclude. Money is money. Like, yeah.
I just, it's absolutely bonkers. And just with you being
Yeah.
in the marketing world, I'm just wondering, is that was taught, right? If you rile these guys up and make them hate you, your business is going to be wonderful. You're going to like be in Forbes every week for being like the top 10,
Uh, yeah.
Fortune 5
No, like,
company.
I read about stuff to keep up to date and everything, and I'm just like, "You know what? So far, my approach is working. Like, companies aren't complaining, everything's going well." Yeah. Not gonna do that.
You're telling me it's better for people just to like you, or even if they don't
Yeah.
like your product, not hate you?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know when it all got flipped on its head.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. Another reason for doing this sort of channel as well, I'm forcing myself to watch a lot of movies because I
Oh.
was getting to the point where I was just going to turtleneck completely because I was sick of everything. Everything come out had to be a controversy or a drama, and
Yeah.
that is so exhausting.
I'm like, "Just let me enjoy. Let me enjoy."
And I was getting to the point where I was going to stop completely, just not watch anything, and just live with a lighted candle and I'll stare at that every day because it's not calling me names. That'll
Yeah.
be my entertainment for the night. I'll light this candle and we'll look at it for an hour.
Just
And I'll not offend that. It won't offend me.
oh.
Is there a hope we're going to get out of this?
Probably. Everything, like, fashion cycles every X years. We're getting the early 2000s again. I assume, we're going back to, on streaming services, not everything's released all at once. we have to watch things one episode a week, just like it used to be on regular TV. Like,
That's
everything cycles back. So, I don't know in how many years we'll get there, but I'm sure we will.
now they're talking about bringing ads in. In fact, the reason people moved away from TV to
Yeah.
streaming was because they were sick. Also, sick of network TV, sick of 200 channels and nothing on it.
Right.
Sick of these shows getting pumped out,
Mhm.
and they're not even worth watching. And people like there's only so much time in the day, so you kind of want to refine what you watch. Now we're getting all this. I think because TV people have jumped ship and gone on these
Yeah.
streaming services, and they've only got the one mindset.
Mhm.
When you went through college and class, was it the bottom of the class, the ones that went to TV? Was there a pattern?
I
Or the
don't
ones
think
that
I
going, TV, I'll do that.
yeah,
Is that
I don't
the
think I
sort of
know
people that go?
anyone that went into TV.
Nobody does.
Yeah, at least
No,
not my personal experience.
nobody knows anyone on TV. It's like they'll
Yeah.
all live in an island.
Like, who's doing it? Who's actually writing for TV? And yeah, there's so many things out there now, but
No, it's
yeah,
hard
we're
work because
going
it
back
just.
to ads and things released one day a week. It used to be like that on regular TV before
Mhm.
streaming services. So,
And even the social media platforms, apparently Twitch is going that way. That even
oh,
if you're say like this, people won't be
yeah.
adverted with ads, but if you did it on Twitch, there would actually be a point where they'll insert ads,
Oh, wow.
and we have to go.
Okay.
And now for the commercial break, and you're like,
Oh,
what the hell?
why?
And that's why the platform's down a death because
Yeah,
it's just like, who on earth wants that? That
yeah,
was the whole point was
yeah.
to get away and
Yeah, you get ads on, like, Instagram and TikTok.
fuck everything. I don't
I'm
even
just
touch
like
that platform. That platform
like,
looks
I
painful.
don't care.
Has it ever been anything you actually want to buy? The ads you
No.
get bombarded with.
No, they're, like, things I don't use, things I wouldn't even consider. Like, totally I'm just like, maybe I'm not interacting with the right things.
No, it's,
No personalized ads for me.
they're worse.
Yeah.
Um, it's like I play dopey games on my phone now and again, and you get those ads. You know, to get level up or get the
Oh,
extra
yeah.
gem or
Yeah.
something. They'll
Yeah.
play an ad, and it's never for anything I want, and also or scam. And you
Yeah.
think just by putting it on here is ensuring I'm never going to buy it.
Yeah, I get a lot of, like, shampoo ads.
I don't.
I'm just like,
Funny
"Okay."
enough, they must know. They've obviously done the face recognition and said it. Nah, waste of money.
Right? But, yeah.
It's like we're living in strange times because for a while there we had this like age of, and I would say it was sort of mid 2000s to 2010
Mhm.
where we kind of stepped away from the sort of corporate machine and we'd found our own little path and we're carrying along quite happily. And then it seems like all the bland grey suits have went, where'd they all go? Well, there they are. Charge. And now we're like getting steamrolled over.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well,
Do you
I was
still
growing up during that time, so
that's
but
already sort of old hat because I grew up in the 80s and late 70s, 80s, and like the internet for the first time and how it was changing the world. And just we had so much hope leading
yeah.
into the millennium. And now it's like, hold on, this is like the 50s. And there's people still, or we're back to medieval times where people are still burning witches.
Yeah, I think, like, right before I went into high school is when MySpace got really big, and so everyone was, like, learning how to code so they could have their MySpace page play
Mm-hmm.
music and
HTML back in the day, that was fun.
yeah, and, when Instagram first came out, it was, "Here's a photo, a really bad filter, and it's, like, a photo of a tree." I'm like, I miss those times, like, the very chaotic everyone's trying to learn how to use this platform.
It was like the Wild West,
Yeah,
over on
and
your
I
side of the
loved
pond.
that, like, so I wish we could get back to that. None of this, here's my aesthetic and my
Yeah,
homepage is
that's
this. I'm like, no, here's a picture of my dog and here's some fancy food and oh, hey, look guys, I'm on a podcast. So, I guess that's my branding is a little chaos, but
has that influenced your branding and promoting to people? Have you looked at this and went, I don't want to be that. This is not what I
yeah,
want to offer to my clients because
I
that
think
is done and people are sick of it and it's going to put them off.
I think
Have you maybe taken a bit of
it
that
looks
in?
fake. Yeah. There's a lot of, more popular, like influencers and stuff, and I'm just like, it just looks fake to me, and I'm not interested. Like, I want real. I want,
Hmm.
I like following other authors who are just equally chaotic. Here's a photo of a book that they just read. Here's like a picture of a cemetery. I'm like, I just want real people. So that's what I connect with. And so that's kind of how I present myself is like, hey, I am a real person.
Hmm.
Like I'm the one behind the writing. Here's
Yep.
here's me.
But you're talking about you still do advertising work for your clients. Are
Yeah,
you
so I do
convincing
them
them?
differently. Yeah.
All right, I was going to say, are you trying to convince them that's what people want, or do you have to like slip into that mold?
Yeah, it's kind of like walking a tightrope. Like in corporate, you have to follow certain things because they're like, this is what's going to be great. And I'm like, but do you listen to your customers? Like, they don't want to see brand photos of 5'10" size 2 models. They want to see themselves wearing that stuff. That's what they want. So it is kind of like depending on what we're working on. If I feel
Hmm.
very like passionately like this, no, like you guys, this is gonna work. They trust me enough. We'll try it out, that kind of thing. Um, but I do think with everything that gets produced, and like you said, kind of overdone, I do think in my experience, people are kind of craving a little bit more normalcy, a little more realness,
Hmm.
less stock photo-y, less like we're a company and we want you to buy our stuff. Here's a sale. More like, come in, talk to us. Like we have options for you, that kind of thing.
Do you think authors in particular struggle with that? Because I've heard it time and time again about self promotion and oh, I don't know how to market myself. And do you think
Yeah.
there's something about being a writer that prevents them from being able to express themselves or come out and have a conversation? Is there a
Mhm.
reticence there, or is it just not knowing how to do it or having an expectation of
I
having to
think
be professional?
yeah, maybe
What do you
it's
think the
the
barrier is?
expectations, like these anything less than what the number one selling authors are doing is not good enough. So I think it's kind of that expectation like, well, if I can't do it that way, then nothing's better, right? Like I'm not messing up if I'm not trying to be like them. So I do think it's a
So
little.
everyone's always looking at the apex of the pyramid.
Mhm.
And as you know, being in the corporate world, you get to a certain level, closer to that tip, and to move
Yeah.
up 1%, you have to put in like 300% more work.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there's more people squeezed together, you know, ready to slit your throat to move up that 1%. And
Yes.
unless you're prepared to slit their throat and go that bit extra,
Yeah.
you're not going to move up that
You
bit.
just gotta find your
There's
spot
only one
and
position at the tip.
thrive.
You know what I mean? The CEO position or the
Yeah.
top selling author. There's only one position at the tip,
Mhm.
and that's a precarious because that's the thinnest point, and it's not a good base to balance yourself on because you're just one push
Yeah.
away from falling off it. Where using that analogy of the pyramid, where should people be
Mhm.
looking? Obviously, not at the bottom. That's where most of us all start.
Yeah.
We all start from there. But where should people ideally look in the pyramid
I
to
kinda
aim for?
yeah, like, I kinda look kinda right in the middle, and then right above it is, like, my goal, you know? Like, I find people that are successful relative to my interests.
Hmm.
And I'm like, what are they kind of doing? Okay. And then who are they inspired by? Who are they kind of trying to emulate? And that just looking at that, okay, well, what exactly is that difference between those two levels? And just finding your sweet spot.
Yeah. How important is it to know your own comfort zone and where you know that to push above that, you're going to go too far away from yourself. That yes, you might achieve notoriety or monetary success, but you're going to be so out of your own skin and
Yeah.
living another life that you're actually going to damage yourself. How do you recognize that point of where you're, that limit of where you're going to hit? Okay, this is where I am. I'm not
I
going
think,
to concentrate on pushing further, but perfecting my
yeah.
craft or cultivating what I have.
Hmm. I think the moment that you are just dreading doing anything that you were like, yeah, this is cool. The moment you're like, "Ugh, I don't want to do that. Like, ugh." I think that's kind of the moment you have to step back and be
Yep.
like, okay,
But not just the once, because we all have a bad day.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
Um,
you just have to kind of be like, what is causing this feeling? Is it actually what I'm trying to achieve? Or, kind of, you just kind of have to take a step back and look at what everything you're doing and, just kind of check in on yourself. But yeah, the moment you start to dread, I think, is when you're like, oh,
have you ever
I'm
reached
a
that point yourself?
definitely with like the marketing life, which is kind of why I stick
Hmm.
with like small businesses, and it's a lot more friendly and, less corporate-y.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to ask you earlier on.
Yeah.
Is that what you try to bring to the smaller businesses? Going right, this is the corporate world, and this is how they're
Yep.
feeling.
Yeah.
Here's what we
Like,
can do instead.
yeah, like if you were a mom and pop cafe, you're not going to have everything that Starbucks has.
Hmm.
Don't compare yourself to them. You're not, you don't have their money, you don't have their notoriety, popularity. Like, you don't have all of those locations everywhere. You have this one location. Focus on the people that are going to come here. So it is kind of like that, you
Hmm.
know, kind of reining them in. Like, it's fine to have big dreams. Great. But you also have to be a little realistic. So,
Back to the you always pursue. Was it achieve excellence? What is it? You aim for perfection, but you achieve excellence. That sort of thing. God,
yeah,
my
I've heard that.
one day I'm going to be super clipped and professional and say all my words like I think. But then, flip sake, I wouldn't be able to. If I became that person, I'd be like, yeah, my
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay to strive, but
Mhm.
just take a check on yourself.
Yeah.
Are people more likely as writers to have that introspective, or is it the create? Is there something about creative they need to make something derails that,
I think it
or
it
chasing
depends
the
on,
dream?
yeah,
What?
I think it depends on if the person can handle criticism
Hmm.
and, having that kind of reality check. It's great if you think you are the bomb and you are kicking ass. But if you can't handle the minute someone tells you, actually, like, we really need you to edit this, or maybe that idea is not great, like, rethink it. And
Hmm.
if that one comment just wrecks you, like, it's hard. So I definitely think striving for perfection is great, but unless you're able to take no's and kind of hear second opinions, it's gonna be a rough time.
Yeah. Yeah, you see some people, and it's why I'm not part of too many writing groups or the call and sales author groups.
Yes,
Um,
yeah, I joined a
God,
couple, and I just kinda, like, sit and read people's comments.
you're just like,
I, like,
what
never
the?
post, but I just read people's comments, and a lot of people are like, "I've spent 5 years working on this short story, and it's amazing," but, like, I don't want some publication company to reject it. I'm like, "But what are you gonna do with it?"
Yeah.
how are you going to know if a place is going to take it unless you submit it?
Do you think that's a mask for lack of confidence? That being
Maybe.
terrified, like it's
Yeah.
the unknown. The think that they're going to get absolutely savaged and told they're
Mhm.
horrible and not
Mhm.
maybe get constructive criticism.
Mhm.
Do you think that's what's maybe holding back? Like we're talking about people going on camera that are like,
Yeah.
no, 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 and then I drag someone on for the first time and then they love it, and it's you know,
Yeah. Like just try it. Just dive in. It's okay to be scared to do stuff.
have we lost that today? Have we
Maybe.
lost that? Get up and go and get them.
Yeah.
I'm a Gob Shake, so it doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't faze me.
Mhm.
I'm old in the tooth. I'm at that stage of life where I just don't care anymore. You know what I mean? I'm just
Yeah.
making
I
me
think
happy. But
yeah.
there's people out there that are genuinely terrified of not being
Mhm.
liked or
They wanna be liked
not.
and they wanna be in their comfort zone. And it's yeah,
Does that work with
leaving
creativity?
I don't think so. I think and I don't know if maybe it's just a little bit of creative people are a little more, like, outgoing, but, you know, there's also the creative people that are like, "Nope, I'm gonna do my little stuff, and I'm not gonna be social." I'll do written interviews, but I won't do on-camera interviews.
Yeah, which is complete
So
anathema to. I know some great people who I can't get on to talk.
yeah.
And one in particular, she's a reviewer, and she right every one of her reviews, she creates like a landscape art. She uses dolls and
Oh,
blood and makes a whole scene to go with each book review. And
love it.
right, she does. It's not just one or two. I mean, she's pumping these out every other
Yeah.
day.
Oh.
And I want to get her on the talk. She's like, no, 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 don't want to do it. I'm like,
Yeah.
come
No,
on, you're
it's
missing out.
scary
It's
at first, but you gotta do it. Like, you know, I'm terrified of heights, but whenever we're traveling somewhere and it's like, you know, well, we're gonna go to the top of the castle. I'm like, well, obviously I have to do it because this is a once in a lifetime thing, and
mhm.
I bet the view is really great.
Is
So
it
I will be terrified the entire walk up, and I will be terrified the entire time I'm standing up there, but I will be happy that I went.
is it like a vertigo thing with the heights or the fear of the falling over or because I
Uh,
was until I did my first abseil, and that was back when I was
uh,
like 11 or 12. I was terrified. I mean, escalators used to send
yep.
me into some sort of nervous panic.
Going up escalators, like the super high ones at airports, I'm
Mhm.
like, whoever I'm with, I'm like, don't talk to me until we are on stable ground. I will be white knuckling the railing.
That
I'm
was
like,
me all the way through
just
primary school, right? And then
like,
somebody threw me off a cliff,
oh no.
and I kind of got that. Well, you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
ropes and stuff, you know what I mean? But just literally,
Oh,
I got
okay.
thrown off the edge of
Yeah.
a cliff with a rope, zzz,
Yeah.
and then I was like, okay, I'm still
Yeah.
alive. I can deal with this now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like
Back to
I've
what you're talking
done
about,
tons
getting
of
up and going for it
stuff,
can,
but I'm still scared.
well, falling from a great height
But
hurts. We
uh,
don't want to do it.
yeah.
Any
Yeah.
sensible, reasonable person's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a mess at the bottom. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sensible to be a wee bit afraid of heights. You know, that's where the
Yeah.
common sense of
Yeah.
we don't flap our arms and try to fly because we know
Right.
that's not going to end well.
Yeah.
But back to that whole thing of fear, you know,
Yeah.
and that's where horror explores. It's kind of makes it funny in a way, not
Right?
the
Like, you're scaring
denigrate anybody,
people,
but
but
we
yourself,
explore fear.
you're scared. Yeah.
Should that not give you, or does it give you exploring that darker side and finding, does that not give you more of an appreciation for life?
I think it does.
Or is that just my
Yeah.
twisted brain going,
No. No, yeah, like, I definitely think I'm just like, "Oh, we gotta enjoy this. We're taking vacation time," or, just I think because I've spent so much time thinking about all of these horrible outcomes and writing these creepy scenarios,
Mhm.
I'm just like, "Oh, we just gotta do it. You gotta live." Like, just
Yeah, because you could
go for it.
bounce and every bone break as you hit the
Yeah.
rocks and
Yeah.
snaps and you're gonna lie at the bottom of the ravine and you're gonna be just
Yeah.
waiting for the buzzards to come and start pecking you while you're alive, taking your last breath. You know, we've all been there in our
Yeah.
heads. So it's like, oh well, that's not too bad then. I could be in that scenario.
Right. Right. Like, at least I didn't meet a serial killer today. Like,
Always, well, not that
we're
you know
good.
of.
Right.
You might
At
have
least
only
I
met them
didn't
for the
become
first
a
time.
victim.
Would you be disappointed though? Right, you go past and make serial killer looks at you and goes, nah. Would you
Yeah.
be offended?
What was it? Like, someone did a study about how, like, cannibals avoid people with tattoos. And I was just like, what, you don't think we're good enough just because we have tattoos?
Oh
Like,
dear, better
that's
start getting
definitely
some.
not what you should be thinking. But, like, initially I was just like, well, that's so stupid. Like, just because I have a tattoo doesn't mean I'm not as appetizing.
Eat me, damn it!
Yeah.
That's the whole beauty of this
Yeah.
genre, and you develop a certain mindset
Mhm.
where things aren't taken as seriously. You have an appreciation for life, and
Yeah.
the more people I think jump on board, don't bring your baggage with you. Leave your baggage at the door from out there. But the more people sort of
Mhm.
jump on board and get in that whole, well, it could be worse. It could be eviscerated right now, and
Right.
made a plaything of demons. That's not happening today. So
Right.
what else could happen?
Right.
Okay, that's not too bad. Crack on.
Exactly. Like, we've already considered all the worst possibilities that could happen in your day.
And if we haven't, one of our friends have, that's. And
Exactly.
how important is it to cultivate the right people? Not to be clicky or
Mhm.
gathering a
Mhm.
group of sycophants, but how important is it as a creator or when you're looking to get that feedback? How important is it to find the right people to sort of network with or gel with? And how difficult is
Mm.
that journey?
Um, it might be a little difficult if you're not willing to put yourself out there. But like I said, and you kinda said, like, I've joined a couple writers groups, gotten nothing out of them, kinda, I joined the Horror Writers Association, and I think that's kinda been the key for me
Mm-hmm.
is, like, I look at everything that they do, like, who they do interviews with, and kind of joined, like, local chapter, kinda, you know,
How does
met
that
with
work?
some
In fact, there
people
was
that
somebody I wanted to. She couldn't make it, unfortunately,
Yeah,
last month. I wanted to bring on who's uh she's up in Canada. She's part of the Horror Writers Association. I
mhm,
want to actually talk to her about that.
yeah.
Are you okay for time, by the way? I know I normally said an hour, but like I said,
Yeah.
it goes
Yeah,
as
I'm
long as it
good.
goes. Right? Cool.
Mhm.
I don't want you to be sitting there
Yeah.
going, "Let me go, let me go." um, how was that? Because I know people have reticence about joining groups, and especially it's a paid group, isn't it, for
Yeah.
membership?
So, yes, and they have a ton of different levels. So even though I am a published author and I've been paid for my work, I'm still, like, an affiliate,
Hmm.
um, just because, I'm like, it's okay."
So you don't exclusively publish through the Horror Writers Association. It's
Correct. Yeah,
right.
so
So
the
you
Horror
still have
Writers
the.
Association, kinda think of it more as, like, a big learning group, like, they do interviews with different authors. They do publish their own, books.
Mhm.
So, like, they have a poetry showcase every year. Um, I think some of their stuff is only open to
So these
members.
are anthologies, but for members only.
They're like,
Yep.
"Hey, this is the poetry showcase. It's
You're not going to get
HWA
your
members."
complete work published. Like you're not
Yeah,
going to get your
yeah.
own poetry book published through the HWA, but
Right.
you can
They do
submit to
group
their
stuff. Yeah.
anthologies. Yep.
Yep. And they have a blog. So that's where they have interviews, people of all different parts of horror kind of can be in there. So they do have part of the membership is for like publications and stuff. So
Mhm.
it's not just writers. It's anyone a part of the writing aspect. So, they have people on there that do horror cover art or, so it's like
So
a
it's a
big
networking
community.
tool.
Yeah, yeah. They have like StokerCon once a year. I haven't been
That's
able to
right, because
go
they
yet.
do the Bram Stoker Awards. That's one
Yep,
of the things they're known for.
yep.
Yep.
So, and they have a lot of scholarships. So they do that too. They support writers. You can do mentorships. I did a poetry mentorship. It's free, where you get,
Hmm.
someone that's way better than you, way more experienced, partnered with you, and, just working on your work. And it's a free program. And so, but, you know, it's pretty cool. And it's across the world. So,
Yeah. So how does the chapter work? Because I know it's broken in there. Is that the
mhm.
facilitate physical meetups?
Yep. Yep. So,
Obviously, think over the last 2 years, everything's kind of went belly
yeah.
up. I'm
So,
only starting to
like,
get her back into the flow of things. But normally, is that the idea that
yep. So
for the
when
chapters, you're not competing with each other? Is that correct?
correct. Yeah,
Right.
no, it's just like, so I just moved to Washington. Before I lived here, I lived in Illinois. And so I was a part of the Chicago group, even though I lived like an hour and a half away. And so during COVID, they had virtual meetings. And it was
Hmm.
kind of like, this is what we're going to talk about, if we have a new member, and this is kind of the process. But as a chapter, they would organize events. So, whether it was, hey, one of our chapter members has a new book coming out, like we're going to organize a book reading at some store, or, doing events.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like you get your own little group of people who support you, and, you're working together for everyone to kind of get that uh, experience and getting themselves out there, participating in events, that kind of thing. But you also get people that'll read your work and give you feedback. So,
Oh, cool. So that's yeah, it's always good to know about these things because what I try to explain to people or have, it's not no point me just sitting here going blah blah blah. That's why you need someone else on to go, well, here's my experience because
mhm.
there's this perception that there's only the one way to succeed. And there's always somebody, it's always this snarky lunatic that's like, you must do it exactly this way because that's how I did it. And if you don't do it that way, you're a
Yeah.
failure. Or something that really bugs me is when somebody goes, you're not an author. You can only be
Yes.
an author if you've done it my way, which I
Yeah.
think's horrible.
Yeah.
It's
I definitely had
nasty.
like some imposter syndrome. Like, it wasn't until pretty recently that I've started to call myself like an author. So,
What do you need to do to consider yourself an author? Because I consider myself a dabbler. I'm
yeah.
hands on
Yeah.
every pay. I have a wee go of things. It's not my main focus. But what do you need? At what point do you consider yourself okay? I'm an author now.
So,
Where
for
you were maybe a writer before.
yeah.
What's the sort of barrier you have to cross?
So for me personally, obviously, this is gonna be different for everyone,
Once
like you
again,
said.
that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking you. It's not me
Yeah.
saying that's why.
So the the moment I got my first, like, book deal, like, didn't have a completed manuscript, I submitted them my ideas. It's a poetry collection. I submitted them my ideas, and they're like, "This is we want this." And, like, signed a contract and, gonna get, like, an advance, and the moment I did that, I was just like, "Okay, someone really believes in me as a writer enough,
Hmm.
like, without seeing the finished product, they are signing me. I'm an author." So, for me, it was, like, that first standalone piece.
Hmm. So it was the publishing company have
Mhm.
that faith in you,
Yeah.
even if was it just a one book deal or a
Yep, so and it doesn't
if
come out
obviously
till
if
next
it's
year,
yeah
but
obviously I don't want to pry into your personal stuff, but just
yeah, it
so
was.
it's but that's enough. That's in your mind. You've crossed the line. You've now stepped into that arena.
Mhm.
You're happy with yourself because that's
Yep.
not so much other people because there's always somebody will be like nah 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 nah,
Yeah,
and you gotta
right. Well,
let
it's a
that white
poetry
noise.
collection. It's not a novel.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's only a novella. It's not a novel. Nah nah nah
yeah,
nah nah. And you
but it's
haven't
like,
had.
right. I probably spent just as much time. But yeah, I think it's just that first stand-alone piece. I was just like, they have confidence in me. They're giving me my own book
Mhm.
where it's just my name on the cover. Okay, I'm officially a writer. like an author of a horror book. So for me, it was that, like, standalone, no longer, I'm in an anthology, guys. But
And then I've spoken
and
to
I
some
love
people
those.
here who 100% submit the anthologies. That's what they
Yep.
do.
Yeah.
That doesn't make
That's, like,
them.
all of my stuff is in
Yeah.
anthologies, and I love it because I'm just like, yeah, like, I get to be with these other stories, and it works great. Like, my story, their stories, cohesive, love it, and
Oh my God,
I think
yeah.
it's
For
just
me, it's when I had my first short story published.
okay. Yeah, like,
Get
everyone's different. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
what I'm
definitely
trying
felt a
to.
little impostery, like, "Do I actually get to call myself an author?" But now I do. If people are like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a horror author."
Yeah, and once again, the one thing doesn't define you as a human being or a person
Mhm.
or even a creator.
Yeah.
Uh, Octel, you're very nice. You're always stoking my ego up here.
I do
It's like,
when you picked my story to read, I was just, like, calling up my mom, like, "Oh my gosh, you won't believe this. My story is gonna
but
be read."
but that's just another. It's trying to get because I've had people come here who've never written before
Mhm.
and they've never actually tried to publish, and I'm like, well, you wanna give us a shot?
Yeah,
And there's people that have come on at the start. They've only maybe submitted one story, and I've never heard from them again. But I don't, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
if that's giving somebody the confidence, okay,
Mhm.
here it is, it's out there. Do with it what you will.
Yeah.
Then it's just another tool in the box. That's my belief. Why
Mhm.
we do this? And once again, it's how else do you get people out there? People are quite happy to spend, as we mentioned, Starbucks. They're quite happy to spend what's it, $4.99 or $6 in America
Yeah.
for a coffee, but they won't spend $2.99 on a
Yeah.
Kindle book, or they'll waste 6 hours a day on the little black box going, but they won't read a book because they're
Yeah.
afraid of wasting their time or watch a movie because they're terrified
Yeah.
of wasting their time.
Yeah.
Um, to me, that's just mental. You know what I mean?
I know.
That's
I'm always
mental.
like, "Do I have the time commitment to start a series?" Like, "Oh, this book series has 6 in it. Do I have the time to spare, or should I keep reading some standalone stuff?"
It's
So
actually my problem with the fantasy genre because everything's split into
okay.
trilogies, and it's all like an author could be going for 20 years. You're like, where do I
Yeah.
bloody start? And if you just happen to pick up a book off a shelf and you realize it's book two, then you
Yeah.
look on the shelf and you don't see book one and book three. You're like, like back on the
I
shelf again.
know. Yeah, one of my friends recommended, like, this vampire series, and she's like, "You'll love it. There's 32 books." I'm like,
I'll
"What?"
be good. But
I'm like,
um,
"Alright, we're doing this. 32 books. Let's buy them all."
just rack them up and we'll go through them when we can. Yeah, but not even as a writer, not even to read the write, but you need to read.
Oh, I love
I
it.
just to open your mind.
Mhm.
Um, do you
I
have
completely agree.
concerns that people have forgotten or they've lost the art of being able to sit down quietly and read a book without
Yeah.
constant buzz and noise?
Mhm. Yeah. So, like I said, I have ADHD, and so sometimes for me, a book is all or nothing. Like, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna read this book today.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I don't finish it, well, I might not end up reading it for a week, you know? But I do think today a lot more people are into short form stuff, like articles and anything that you can just read on your phone really quickly um, but then I talk to other people and there's the whole bookstagram community and everyone's like, "I read this book and you gotta check it out." And
I got really annoyed
so
with those lot because one of them was holding an event and I had this channel jump in and I had authors
Okay.
submit
Yeah.
for the event. And it's not even about me, but they didn't even give a mention to the
Oh.
authors who
Oh.
put their time in. And I actually set aside because it's every week our show goes on with the horrific tales.
Yeah.
So to put that back means that could be a month or 2 months. That's a knock-on effect before somebody's work gets out that have maybe submitted.
Yeah.
So I actually put that time aside for people to join in that particular event, and the people around it didn't even mention the author, didn't even have to mention the channel. I wouldn't have minded that. You know what I mean? It's not about this, but the
Yeah.
fact that they didn't even mention the authors that
Aw.
submitted the stories to be read out for it, I was back in May. That really annoyed me, and that really put me off Bookstagram, BookTube.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they seem to be very. I'm talking about this whole clicky. We're part of this club, and we'll only because I noticed a pattern. Like if one author, they start gushing about one author, they all do it. The
Yep.
next author, they all gush
Yep.
about the next author, and that's
Yep.
my reticence about groups, or
It's
even
like suddenly every account you follow is reading the same book.
it's like reaction channels. I have a love hate
Oh.
relationship with reaction channels because they all react to the one thing, and then that's it. That's the
Mhm.
thing they all react to, and it's
Yes.
so. And back to this genuine, like fakeness. You know it's
Yeah.
not true. You can't all be reading exactly the same thing at exactly the same time and just happen to be finishing
Right.
reviewing it at exactly the
Right.
same time within the space of 1 or 2 weeks. It doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Even if a new book comes out
Yeah.
and we all buy it at the same time, that's going to go in different parts of people's reading piles because
Right.
that's the way it works.
Yeah.
But it's very convenient that here's the author we're gushing about this month. No.
Right. Yeah. And then all the little guys get left out.
And that's why
Yeah.
I normally operate first come, first served,
Mhm.
when we're minute, because that's somebody potentially waiting up to 3 months maybe before it comes
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
And I don't want, that's why I don't always put out calls every so often because I don't want people waiting that long.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah.
want to, keep people on board and get a chance out there. But where am I going with this? Sorry. Yeah, that whole fake, corporatized.
Mhm.
We see that legion in even the like people that review and read books. Just they get that
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah. I started to be I'm like a street team member for D&T Publishing. And so,
Oh right, you're
you know.
another D&D. I need to get a list of all you guys. I've been working with Dawn like for quite a while, for
Oh,
over
she's
a year and a
great.
half.
She's so nice.
But we've published loads of you guys, and every time somebody publishes, oh god,
Mhm.
because I don't like to publish in her group because I don't want to spam it. And it's
Gotcha.
like bloody hell,
Yeah.
there's another D&T author should have posted that in there. It's
Yeah.
I need an
So,
RB section in my spreadsheet going D&T just so I know who to post
yeah.
into her group because
And so I get sent, you know, stories to give honest reviews. And I really enjoy, like, I'll write my review and I'll wait until it comes out to post it. And then I really enjoy reading everyone else's reviews. Like, I've gotten really into reading book reviews lately. And I just find it, like, really fascinating how some people have a very structured way to write their interview. And I'm like, okay, is that what people want? Like, oh. But, I definitely go to read book reviews, instead of, like, the Bookstagram book reviews where it's, like you said, everyone's reading the same book at the same time, apparently.
yeah, suspicious. Have
Like,
you ever noticed with book reviews, some people they make it all about them, and they're
yeah.
trying to show how intellectual and clever they are, and they actually write the biggest load of gobbledygook.
Yeah.
And instead of right, I really like this story. This bit was fun. That was fun. Wasn't too
Yeah.
fussed in this bit. The end.
Yeah.
They're trying to go. Oh, I'm big brain me. Show
I
big
know.
brain words. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, what are you
Sometimes
bloody right? You
yeah,
lunatic.
I'm just like, "Oh, is my, like, review gonna make people not wanna read it because it's not this lengthy, descriptive thing?" And I'm just like, "No, I enjoyed the work." It felt the writing was great, like, there weren't any weird spots. Definitely recommend it if you like X, Y, and Z. Like,
Doesn't have
yeah.
to be more than that. When I'm doing
So
somebody ripped into me because I do trailer reactions as well that are coming
oh,
up now.
yeah.
And somebody's like, "How can you talk for 26 minutes on one trailer?" I'm like, because I'm excited about the franchise and I want to see where it's going, and then I'll go back through the trailer frame by frame and talk about it. Some
That's
reviews are like 5 minutes, but it's like it just took as long as it took. I wasn't trying to be anything, but
that's
somebody
me
got
with
really
music
offended.
videos. Every time, like, one of my, uh every time I watch a music video that I'm just like, "Oh my gosh." I, like, go get my husband. I'm like, "You have to watch this, and then you have to let me talk to you about it because I need to talk to someone about it." I'm
Need to
like,
get it out
"You're
there.
gonna sit here, and I'm gonna pause it at certain times, but you are gonna listen."
Is that when his wedding ring starts burning? Like,
He's like
oh.
he's like, "I never watched music videos before you." And I'm like, "Great, you're learning. Here's your education."
Here's an interesting one from the arcade.
Okay.
Real books versus Kindle. What's kind of your favorite?
You know, I love real books. I've tried to read ebooks and just I've never gotten into it. I'll take an ebook when like a Kindle when I travel just so I have books, for the size. Like instead
Yeah,
of
it saves
taking
you
5
breaking your back.
paperbacks, I just got 1. But I am a paperback person. That is my go-to.
Yeah, there's something about physicality, and we've talked about physical media in this channel
I
many
love
times.
it.
That people are losing out on the
Yeah,
experience
yeah.
of physical media, like a music CD or vinyl gets
Mhm,
released. You're
mhm.
looking at the artwork, you're seeing what it is.
Yeah,
I've been spending too much money recently on steelbooks, so horror, anniversaries coming out, so you're buying the book, and you know, it's got the 4K and the Blu-ray, and then you've got the extra stuff, and you're looking at the
yeah,
artwork and the way it's done. There's
yeah,
something about that physicality, I think, makes something,
yeah,
once again, talking about realness, because that seems to be a theme of this conversation. But
yeah, yeah.
when it's physically in your hand, when you're physically seeing like somebody's put the effort to create artwork,
I love
as
it.
opposed to a streaming service where everything's like generic
Mhm.
um movie poster style title, which wasn't even the same as a movie poster, because I grew up in the days of it was Extravision over here, used to call it Blockbuster, but VHS rentals. And the effort
Yes!
had to go into them bloody posters,
Oh my
because
gosh.
you're walking up the stair, like one of them
Yeah.
back in my
No,
days,
it
you
was
walked up
like
the
the
stairs into the
greatest
store.
thing. Go into Blockbuster, right? Friday night. You gotta pick out the movie that you're gonna watch for the weekend. But yeah, all the movie posters and like everyone's little DVD screens.
Yep,
It's
and everything,
yeah.
it had to captivate you. And
Yes.
I think we've kind of lost that. And maybe that's why marketing is kind of struggling at the moment, do you think?
There's too much. Too many, um trying to please everyone maybe? Like,
That always works.
you know, um, ebooks, great. Like, it gets it out there, it's very accessible. People can now you can, a lot of libraries, you can borrow ebooks. So, like, it makes it super accessible. It makes more authors accessible. But I will always pick a paperback book over any other option. Like, I can't get into audiobooks. I can't sit there and listen. I'm just like, I gotta read it and I gotta create the world in my mind. That is, and I gotta hold the book.
One of the reasons why we do what we do is because we appreciate that maybe this much the younger generation, but the modern
Mhm,
generation, people have got used to everything in short form. So
mhm,
that's why I would think, okay, a little extract, jazz it up, but bring it to life, throw a few
mhm.
sound effects and music, make it 3D,
Yeah,
so that somebody might be enticed in the rest of the story, because you kind of have to draw people in now.
yeah,
Another reason for doing these interviews, so that meet the author, right? This isn't just an author going, buy my stuff. I'm
yeah.
writing, I finished writing, I'm writing again, I'm finished. I mean, there's only so much of that you can
Right.
do where it
Mhm,
becomes the
mhm.
same. So to me, having the conversation gives people more of a chance to get to know you and what you're
Mhm.
about, and give more of
Yeah,
appreciation. And maybe if they're on the fence about picking up your work, then they can go,
yeah.
oh, give Brianna a go, give
Yeah.
her a bash. That's the
And
hope anyway. Whether it works or not, we
yeah.
can only
That's
tell. But
Yeah, that's one thing I really like about anthologies is because maybe that anthology has 20 different authors and you're like, "You know what? I want this uh monster based. It's all vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein stories." But you might find an author that you would not have picked one of their standalone pieces.
I got burnt out. I picked up. I have a do unboxings here every month. I have
Oh.
a monthly subscription
Yeah.
service that gives tales, and there was just one I was really looking forward to. It was about sea monsters and terrors of the deep.
Ooh. Yeah.
Started reading it, and honestly, it was horrible. 4 stories in, and I just had to stop. And it was
Yeah.
all the same, and all the tropes of
Oh,
today.
okay.
See all the negative tropes of today. You're in
Yeah.
this, you're a phobe, you're a horrible person, blah blah blah. And some of them were like 3 pages. Like that
Oh.
was their story. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And
Like I
I have another anthology sitting next door, and I can't pick it up. I'm afraid to. I'm
Yeah.
bloody.
Like that's I enjoy anthologies because I like that, like, okay, here's a short story by this author. If I don't like it, no big deal.
Yeah,
But maybe 1 out of the 20 in there, I'm really gonna like, and I'm gonna want to explore more of their work.
yeah.
So,
It's all the hook. It's that little teaser.
yeah, yeah.
All different
But
ways. In fact,
it's such a letdown when you don't like any of them.
and
You're
maybe
like,
the rest
"Dang
of it's
it."
okay, but I'm just seeing a theme. And then
Yeah.
obviously whoever's the publisher has decided this is what we want every story to be like. And I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
went, nah, I'm done. My brain hurts. I'm actually feeling quite miserable reading this. I'm stopping. And I'm
Yeah.
afraid to pick up my other anthology that it's been sitting on the
Oh,
shelf. And I'm like, I don't want that experience again.
don't want the same feelings. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it's amazing how emotionally you know what I mean, you get kicked in the bits once and you're like, oh, I was sore, don't want it again. But there we go. Yeah, I'm getting laughed at. But yeah, good chat. I suppose I can go on here for hours. That's calm down, keep you talking about all sorts of things. But what have you got in the works now? What's currently in development? I know you've got your anthology of
Yeah.
poetry. That's ticking along.
Yes.
Do you have anything else in the works?
So next month, October, I'm into anthologies. Um, one, I have like a Baba Yaga
All right.
inspired
Yep.
short story that comes out early October. It's in their ghoulish reputation. It's like all Eastern.
So we're going for the chicken house stealing children, not John
Eh,
Wick.
correct. Yeah,
Right.
no,
Okay.
I'm like,
Just for anybody that might be familiar, the right Baba Yaga. Just
correct. Yes. Yeah, witch. And then I have like a true paranormal short story that comes out next month as well. So September, October, I feel like are always so busy with horror stuff.
yeah, it's a
But
glut. It just takes over everything for a month, and then
yeah.
it just dissipates, and then there's
Uh,
nothing. It doesn't pick up again till like January, and you're kind of like, oh,
yeah.
come on.
And then outside of that, I just have my poetry collection, which is it's all horror poetry inspired by deadly fashion trends. So really using that college degree, putting that to use.
Just may as well. You flipping got yourself in debt
Yeah.
over it. You may as well get it
And
sorted.
so that'll come out next summer. So before Halloween.
Yeah, because this month has been horrendous for movies stuff. Because everyone's you just know they're holding it all back,
Oh,
and then we're going to get
I know.
beaten over the head come 1st of
Yeah.
October.
Yep. I'm just waiting.
I was going to say, paranormal groups that we've had conversations about them, they're a fun bunch.
Yeah.
Don't take themselves too seriously at all. It's like, if you go in there with any sort of sense of humor, it's like, yay, you're a non-believer.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just trying to have a
So,
laugh because
right.
life's too short. But speaking of Brianna, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah,
Absolute pleasure
thanks for
talking to you.
having me.
Love the tangents because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
We actually got through all the questions as well,
Oh,
so
great.
officially kind of done my job. But
Yeah.
nah,
Love it.
it's more fun just to bounce around the place and get people to just see the madness and enjoy it and come along for the ride. That's what we're all about.
Yeah.
So in the links in the descriptions, Brianna's website,
Okay.
check it out. Check out her works. She's on the show. Hopefully she'll come back and submit more. And
Oh, yeah.
keep going. As usual, do the like, share, clicky thing and all that YouTube type stuff that we all like. Greatly appreciate it. Let's help get people out there. And until next time, then, folks, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.